All right, good afternoon. I am State Representative Colin Wellenkamp. I represent St. Charles City, the 105th District. And joining me today is Representative Scott Miller, also St. Charles County, and Representative Mike Koslow, St. Charles County. So you have my St. Charles gang here today. And we come with good reason. My city was the first city in the nation to put a one-year moratorium on data centers. We want AI infrastructure. We want a data-driven economy. We want that development in our city. We want it in our county. But it has to be done right. It has to be done in a way that we don't compromise our resources and we don't compromise other economies that are operating in our cities just to help one. That's secondary. Primary, we don't want to compromise human health and safety and our ability for our citizens to have controlled utility rates where they're not priced out of existence. And two, our city and our county, as all of us can attest to, we have some water insecurity issues in St. Charles. Not going to sugarcoat that. It's true. We are having to get water both from compromised well system that is cleaned and then safely given to our folks, but it's low capacity. We also have to get water from St. Louis County. We are pursuing permanent water solutions for our city and our county for sure. But in that interim, we can't add stress to an already water insecure situation. Now, we're going to get water to our folks, no matter what. But we can't invite economies to come in that jeopardize our ability to do that into the future or the near term. So that is why Representative Koslow and I have introduced the AI Infrastructure Grid Integrity and Water Resource Protection Act. It is a mouthful, but it works on doing a lot. One, it's going to work on keeping our utility rates stable so that our folks throughout Missouri, not just St. Charles, but throughout Missouri, are not subject to price jolts and shocks. And Representative Koslow is going to talk all about that. And then after he's done, I'm going to talk about the protections for around water. And Representative Miller is going to hit it home if he wants to and wrap everything up for us. So, Representative Koslow.
Thank you, Representative Wellenkamp. As he highlighted very aptly, we have an influx of high-capacity consumers coming in. Data centers are one of them, but we have other uses in manufacturing and industrial that could pose the same risk to our grid. We are extending out what we saw implemented under SB 4, some protections for consumers, requiring that any of these large load consumers that come into any territory in Missouri must pay for whatever it costs to provide them electricity, whether that requires grid infrastructure upgrades, whether it includes increased capacity through building of power plants or water facilities. We have to make sure that that cost is not passed on in any situation to consumers. We want to protect our residents first before we start to look to reap the benefits of this kind of investment into our state. SB 4 did some great things with the investor-owned utilities, but we are going to be extending some of those protections and those assurances to our residents that they will not have to pay the cost of data centers coming in to our state, whether they live in a co-op or a municipal utility. This is incredibly important because up until this state, I don't know of any other state that has put this kind of protection for their people in place. Missourians come first. It comes before profits. It comes before attracting businesses. The well-being of Missourians comes first. Second, we do want to build a strong economy here in Missouri. We don't want to do anything that will create onerous burdens or red tape. So I think that this bill that we've put together, this act does create a good balance between the two. It protects Missourians while still encouraging growth of our economy.
Thank you, Representative Koslow. On the water side of things, what we looked at doing broadly, just for a context sake, is all of the protections that were assembled and enacted in SB 4 around grid capacity and grid integrity. We looked at those and looked at folding all of those protections over to water and what that would look like and what that would mean. And basically, broadly, what we've done is we've put together a Department of Natural Resource permit requirement for large water users. If your facility is going to use more than 2 million gallons of fresh water per day, which is a lot, or 80% of the available capacity of that locality, you have to seek a DNR permit to do that. If you are exceeding that by a good amount, where currently the capacity of the system would be in question, either through normal operation or in an emergency operation, then you will be required to build out freshwater capacity for the locality that you are in, so no one is left in an insecure water environment. We are blessed in our state with rich water resources. We have the 2 largest rivers in North America, some of the 2 in the world, the Mississippi and the Missouri, coursing through and along our state. These 2 representatives and I are more familiar with this than anybody because we come from a confluence region. My city is a confluence city. Not too far from my house, the Mississippi and Missouri rivers come together. In fact, my city has the largest concentration of micro-basins in the state of Missouri per capita because we have the 2 largest rivers in North America coming together in my city. So this is something we are very familiar with. We want to keep this freshwater resource healthy. We want to keep it ecologically sound and strong to support all the economies that depend on it. The largest user of fresh water in Missouri and in our country by revenue generation is manufacturing. Happens to be that manufacturing is mostly food manufacturing, which comes from the agricultural economy, and we are in an ag state. So water is absolutely essential to our state's economy, to our jobs, to our families, and to our ability to attract any additional economy into the future. So with that, I'll hand it off to Representative Miller to bring us home.
Thank you, Representative Wellenkamp. The piece that I've been working on down here with many of my colleagues has to do with AI, the artificial intelligence, and that's what's driving a lot of the concerns that these 2 fellows to my left and right are working on. And what we're trying to do is thread the needle. We're trying to do something that's substantively enough, but not being too much. And so we're working on that down here. I think it's important for everybody, as we look to the future, that the future is coming, and we've got to rise up to meet it. But we need to meet it on our terms. We need to meet it protecting our people, and we shouldn't hide from it. Let's rise up to it. So thank you very much.
Last thing before we take questions is I'll just mention that this bill is a direct result of hearings called and hosted by the House Future Caucus. I chair the House Future Caucus. Representative Miller serves on the House Future Caucus with me. We'd love to have Representative Costello join us as well. He's holding out for a better offer. And the Future Caucus had 2 meetings on AI, one in November and one just last month, where we heard a lot of public statement around water technology, resource protection from all over the world. We had expert witnesses from IBM, from global conglomerates. We had submitted testimony from a lot of the AI industry economy, and that helped us inform and put forward this legislation. So this really is the first informed bill from the Future Caucus's work, and we're very proud of that. Happy to answer questions, concerns folks have.
So where in the process is this legislation then, and how are you, with it already being kind of end of February, what are you expecting it to move through both chambers?
So I would love for it to move fast. This place doesn't do fast. We don't, but we needed to start somewhere, and we needed to put together enough background information. We needed to vet this with utilities and other companies to make sure that we were not doing something that would unduly disrupt another economy or a utilities world so much that you're actually shooting yourself in the foot here. So that took time, and it took deliberation, and we have introduced it as of last week. We're hopeful to put some impetus on this and get it referred to a committee as soon as possible, and then move through the process as soon as we can, as soon as the process can allow us. I know I'm going to be pushing on that. Representative Koslow and I are going to be pushing as much as we can. The members of the Future Caucus are also looking at this to see what they can do to be helpful in moving this along, which is fantastic. So it has a lot of interest, it has a lot of movement, but I would say more importantly, and this is the best arrow in the quiver, it has a lot of urgency.
That was gonna be my follow-up. I think if you asked an average citizen a year ago what a data center was, they would know what you're talking about, and I think that's kind of been a very emerging, urgent issue as of late. And so how important is urgency as far as getting this through, and kind of what do you think the consequences could be if it has to wait like another year to go?
I don't want to get too much into trying to predict the future, especially when we're dealing with a highly volatile field of technology. So AI technology and data centers, changing every day here. It's just very fast. And part of that speed is all the money that's being invested into it. It's just driving a lot of some progress, but also some metastasization. I'd say there's a difference between an economy developing and an economy metastasizing through a society. We want to do the development piece, and that is what this bill focuses on. Our water situation, at least in our region, is stable, but we need to make sure to have these protections in place throughout the state. We have gone through on-again, off-again droughts, some severe, for the last 3 years. 2012 was the worst. It was the 50-year drought. That the last 3 years of drought has cost our country $26 billion in losses. And so drought, intense heat, water shortages, these are real things, and they are happening to us, and we need to address it sooner the better. I don't know if you guys wanted to add anything.
Sir, I had a question for you.
Yes, sir.
So we are in the course of developing this. Governor Kehoe mentioned that the state's open for AI. He wants to embrace it. Has he expressed any support for this kind of legislation?
No expression against it. I think the governor's office is going to be looking at this and watching how it develops, not weighing in too early, and let the process do what the process does. He's actually really good at that, not interfering with what we do here, basically. And we appreciate that. He is a huge proponent, and this is why I feel so comfortable about this bill, of sustainability. In fact, he has a saying of sustainability is not just a process or a policy, it's a way of life. So he understands that we have to pursue sustainable strategies for our water, for our natural resources, just to keep our economy whole and humming and being able to add to it. Otherwise, it's going to collapse in on itself. So that's why he has been very supportive of those types of measures and policies. I feel very comfortable in bringing this forward, working with his team from doing that. Yep. I don't know if you guys want to add to that on the power side.
Yeah, I want to make very clear that this is not an anti-AI, this is not an anti-data center bill. Missouri is a place that, looking across the country, we have a lot of the strengths that data centers are looking for. We have a lot of water. We have some of the cheapest power in the United States. We have some of the best data connectivity on long-haul dark fiber of anywhere in the Midwest. This is a place that data centers can come with very little impact as long as we put the right guardrails around them. We are the show-me state. Other states have showed how to do it good, how to do it bad. We're looking to learn from the lessons of these other states and create guardrails that if data centers do look to invest here, we do it right location, we protect our natural resources, and we protect our residents correctly. So we're not doing anything that we believe will deter that investment in our state. In fact, I've spoken to some of the larger players in the development game, the hyperscalers, and they all say they want to be good neighbors. The big problem is a lot of these developments come in and they have to remain secret. There's a lot of NDA type information to protect their proprietary technologies. And so they can't tell everybody what they plan to do to build new generation, bring in new water. What this does is puts their promises into statute and holds their feet to the fire. And if they truly do want to be good neighbors, this won't stop them from doing it.
This comes also as data centers are getting a lot of pushback from the public. So how do you balance what a lot of your constituents might want, which is no data centers, with not having this be an anti-data center bill?
So one of the biggest problems that I see with the conversation with data centers, and the reason there's so much pushback, is there's so many unknowns. And you have these local municipalities that bring to a hearing or bring to one of their board meetings new development that's coming in. And there's going to be this big development. We really can't tell you anything about it, but we're going to vote on it tonight. And for those situations in which the public can't see transparently what's going on, or at least have positive assurances that they're protected, I've said it's rightful that those fail. We need to do a better job being transparent, informing residents, making sure that they know that their state, their local municipality is protecting them. So what we're doing here is the large-scale grid and water protections. We're looking for those local municipalities to protect their residents as far as zoning laws and the appropriateness of locations. I call on every single mayor and board across this state to really take a look at what your regulations are on data centers and these large developments, and make sure that you have in your zoning laws very, very strong protections for your residents.
If I can add something real quick. So I think it's also important to recognize is data centers actually have been around a long time. It's just that they're now more is being asked of them than has been asked in the past. So strictly speaking, data centers aren't new. We're just seeing a lot more of them, and they're doing a lot more work. So I just want to clarify that.
Actually, a question for Representative Miller. You touched on AI, saying that we need to meet the future on our terms. Can you just elaborate on what that means?
Sure. So it was what the language that I used when I gave this in committee is that we're trying to solve a problem, and the problem space is the imagination. It's in the imagination of our imaginations, and so what we've got to do is we've got to take a look at frameworks that already exist, and we've got to use those frameworks, and they already exist. NIST actually has one. It's an AI risk management framework, and then we've got to put those guardrails in place, and then we've got to encourage businesses to play by those rules, those frameworks, because that's how you demonstrate that you're being responsible. We can't predict the future on this, but what we can do is take a look at what's currently being done in other spaces, actually even at the national level. And when we put those types of frameworks in place and we make sure that businesses understand we have a performance expectation in association with those, then that's how we're meeting it and not hiding from it. Does that make sense? Okay.
So a lot of the population in St. Charles County has a lot of transfers from North County. That comes with the issue of Coldwater Creek and a lot of touchy subjects about water pollution there, and maybe people, a lot of them move to maybe get away from that kind of pollution. So how would you, I guess, reassure citizens who are maybe worried about bringing anything like remotely polluting the water into into St. Charles?
Well, we have the Clean Water Act. I mean, we have a rather robust, tried and true clean water protection regime inside our legal framework. The Clean Water Act has delivered incredible protections, and it has been added to several times with doses of amendments to keep up with industrial techniques and technology. So none of that's going to change. This is more of volume of use, which is becoming an increasing concern. So we've got the clean water piece pretty well down. I want to say that's solved, but we're handling it rather well. Now we need to do the volume piece of things. As we onboard these new technologies and manufacturing processes, water is a key ingredient. We've got more people to feed than we ever have before, too. So we need more food than ever. And food is one of the most intensive freshwater manufacturing requirements out there. And that's what we do in Missouri. We create commodities. That's one of our major economies. So we have to keep all of these economies rolling and sustainable. And that really does implement some significant water volume questions. I will say too that, alluding to your previous question and Representative Costello's response, we took this to data companies, to AI companies, asked them what they thought, what is their priority, what could we inadvertently do that would interrupt their economy, because we wanted to be cognizant of that. And overwhelmingly, we got back across the board is, best thing you can do is create a certain environment for us. You want to put in guardrails? Put in guardrails. You want to put in requirements? Put in requirements. Just make a situation where we know what we're getting into, and we can work with that to inform and be transparent to the public. It actually helps both the public and the private side. It helps the private side know what they're getting into and what the requirements are. They can budget for it. They can plan for it. They can put in the amount of resources it needs. It helps us because then it allows our citizens to better engage with, hey, we have a set of statutes here you guys have to follow. We need to know if you're following them, and we need to know how. How are you following them, and how are you creating these guarantees? So it serves a purpose on both sides. I do want to recognize Representative George Haruza, also a member of the Future Caucus, also helped us with this. He's particularly interested in the water side, been working with me on that. He represents St. Louis County. Just doing questions.
Oh, perfect. Can you kind of speak to the rates on the data center? I know a lot of people are worried about their electric rates going up, and President Trump kind of addressed this in his State of the State last night, saying that there were going to be some protections put in there to where the data centers would have to build their own power plants. Is that kind of some of the guardrails that are in your bills as well?
Absolutely. So the provision in SB 4 that was put in last year that was very forward-thinking requires that all costs for producing or delivering electric to these large consumers, that it falls on them and goes back to their rates. It actually created an entire separate class of ratepayer for those large users that segments them away from everybody else. So all the costs must lie with them. What this bill would do would take that same protection and make it consistent across the state to include our co-ops and our municipal electric. We will be working on some future amendments that we anticipate will be put in there regarding securing upfront capital, so that if generation down the line does need to be built as a result of their development, that we're protected into the future. As far as what President Trump said, I think that there will probably be some motion on the national scale on that. I've heard a little bit from some of our own congressmen that this is a topic of conversation. If they would like to adopt our language, I think that'd probably be very wise. They can have it.
Sir, question for you. So, obviously, several representatives are on the Emerging Issues Committee, but you're also on the Utilities Committee. This seems to be treating data centers more like a utility than other types of manufacturing. So, where's kind of your, is going forward, are data centers kind of supposed to be treated like a utility?
No, and I don't believe that they fall into the realm of a utility. They are not going to be generating or operating their own power plants. They're not going to be operating their own transmission. This would still fall on that electric provider, but they would have to provide the capital for that electric provider, the generator, to build and construct. The data centers will be treated more like an industrial customer. We have a lot of industrial customers across Missouri, and it treats them a lot like that, just on a different scale.
And I'll add to that. The same goes for the water as the power. We're not treating them like a water utility, but we're treating them like an industrial user of water, and whatever. If they go beyond the capacity of the locality, then they have to build it out. There is technology available too, closed loop systems, highly water efficient systems. If they want to invest in those systems that use a lot less water, a lot less intensely for all their purposes, that technology exists. It does take some investment putting into that, but not all data centers are built alike. There are highly efficient, more advanced ones than others. And we want the ones that have less stress for everybody involved to come to our state, but we want them here. Just make sure they're efficient. Yes,
Just one more minor comment. The other thing that we put in both SB4 and this bill is that they have to guarantee that they're going to be paying for those utilities. So they have to guarantee for a number of years. So even if they close up shop in 2 years, they still are responsible for paying for that. And also, if they don't use it, if they find, oh, we don't need as much electricity or as much water, they still have to pay for the water and the electricity they contracted for, so that you not end up having empty capacity, basically sitting idle, because that costs money too.
And clarify, they being the data.
Sorry, yes, the data centers, yes.
Other questions from folks? Okay, well, I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank my fellow representatives for all their work on this, and the Future Caucus for all their hard work. And we'll be around afterwards. Thanks, guys.